Okay, welcome everybody. This is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me today for part 2 is Sean Bond from Boston. And so this has been a while in the making. And so instead of a reading today, well, we might get into a little bit of that later on, but it's going to be in a more generic terms for help to other people. So we got some questions that we're going to go through, and Sean's going to give us some explanations. And so thanks for joining me, Sean. This is great to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so so we'll just go ahead and start off. Oh, well, one thing I wanted to ask you before we start. You were talking about getting a website going. Do you have a website?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do.
It's silvercordss.com.
Okay.
And it's not everything. It's all under maintenance, but it's still getting up and running, so it's a place for everyone to go. So yay.
Yeah.
We'll be getting YouTube videos too. I'm getting video software. My laptop's still. They sent it back without the battery working. So I'm like, why did I send it to you in the first place? Whatever. Then okay. I forgot the rest of the
That's okay. I mean, I just want to, people are going to see this and say, wow, how can I get a hold of this guy? So, website, and, we can post everything, other things in the description down there, depending on best ways to get a hold of you and stuff. But you are doing readings, right?
Sorry, the fastest way to get a hold of me is on Facebook, because that's the biggest thing I check. My email is getting overloaded, so I apologize if I'm not getting to you fast enough. Backed up for months. Anyway, but I'm the only one doing it. I will get to everyone eventually. So I'm trying to go in order. So it's not. I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But thank you. Anyway.
Yeah. So we'll have the links down there for his website and then the email address. But you have a contact form on the website yet? You do? Okay, cool. So that's probably the preferred way right now, is to use the contact form, right?
Yeah, I'm Sean Bond on Facebook, and sn_bond@yahoo.com on my email.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So so Sean and I did an interview prior that you can look up on my channel, and it was essentially as a reading, and to me, it was probably one of the richest readings, informationally dense, with a lot of little buried goodies and gold nuggets in there, which I've yet to discover. But you did inspire me to do one thing, and not too long after we did the interview, and you had suggested to me that I learn muscle testing or similar types of techniques to get more in touch with my intuition and figuring out, inner guidance, those kinds of things. And which comes in the form of muscle testing, and so anyway, there's a woman up in Mount Shasta who's a very interesting story. Her name is Nikayla, and she's going to have a dowsing class up there, which is very similar to what you teach. And so I'm going to go do that in June, and that was inspired by this reading that you did for me. It's like, okay, that's what I want to do, and it's kind of like one of those things where you really do need to practice, and sometimes I can self-teach on a lot of stuff. I did that with painting and a lot of the stuff. But for some reason, I think this is going to be one of the things where I'm going to benefit most by just taking a class. So Nikayla and I kind of hit it off, and we're going to do a trade thing, and I'm going to be able to go up there and take that class. So I want to thank you for that, because you were the one who inspired me to go ahead and do that. So
let me know. And do you have any links on the person?
Yeah, I'll put them on there. Yeah. She has a Pleiadian connection and a very strong connection to Mount Shasta, and a very interesting story which got her from, I think she's from Kansas originally, from the Midwest, and moved to Mount Shasta. That's like culture shock for sure. So all right. Yeah, and I'll put her information down below, but her name's Nikayla. So I mean, for starting off, I mean, we had a short discussion before we started the interview, and there's some things you can't go into a full dissertation in this arena, but I mean, it's very curious watching a reading that you're doing on YouTube, and all the activities, and you looking up into your, what is it, to your right? Is that what you usually do? You look up
I have like filing systems that I like set up for like I know people are like, oh, if you look up to the left or the right, like I think I don't remember what
Yeah.
like I've heard both literally by different people like, oh, if you look this way it means you're lying, or
Yeah.
if you're making up. I don't care. I use all the space. But and I don't really think about it, but yeah. It kind of like helps a lot more because you're like you're going out of focus with your main, and you're going into your peripherals, and it kind of put you in more of a sense of your third eye as if it was a holographic projector, and then you there's some new movies that have like technology that are like holographic computers that you work with, like Iron Man and stuff. It's kind of like that, and you set those up in operating systems.
So you have like a spatial storage area around. It's like it's like we're watching you inside of your library, looking at the different sections where the books and the files are maintained, and you can go access those. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, everyone's got their control rooms that they can access.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. And then in that process too, you're making inquiries, and you're finding out that there's some things that you can talk about, some things that you can't talk about, and basically what you're doing in these readings is you've just taken the whole idea of muscle testing to a very refined level, and actually creating operating systems for areas of inquiry. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. So with the muscle testing, and it's like a skill set, a baby arm, like a psychic muscle that needs to be trained. Everything. There are things that will make it less accurate in the vagus nerve. I recommend using it to then look into your vagus nerve to release those blockages. There's also blockages throughout the entire body for various functions that mainstream science won't go into. Corporately influenced in their if you don't go along with the agenda, you don't get your tenure, or you don't get all that kind of stuff. That kind of mentality. So the first question you asked, something's trying to make me forget. What was it?
Well, we're just kind of talking in general terms about the methodology and the fact that you're using the space that you're in like you're saying, like a holographic library. So your visual cues, like what we're seeing you do, is like you're accessing the information, and you have different areas that you go to depending on the areas of inquiry. You have an operating system, so to speak. I know that's a term that you use frequently.
So I just remembered what it was like. So you can make an operating system. You ever forget something, and then it's like trailing off, and oh no, I'm losing my thought. You can make an operating system to yank that back in and tune back into it, because your body records everything that's ever happened to you. You can then figure out why that was caused, that memory loss. There's like someone's like, oh, you're smoking too much, or so that's usually an excuse, something hiding behind that. Anyway, so why the things I can't talk about usually have to do with a potential that I am reading in the future based on what I have projected in information for the mass population that is listening to this interview, or various factions, light, dark, and neutral, and what they will then take that information and go off and make in timelines. All those different choice points and potential future is constantly changing. So there are things I'm not allowed to talk about to anyone. There are things I'm allowed to talk about to only people privately. And then like what I can talk about publicly. And then there's various scales where things I used to not be able to talk about can then be talked about. So it's like an ever-growing expansion as more people expand themselves around the planet, more concepts come out in the collective unconscious. I'm definitely allowed to talk about stuff that is declassified in the collective unconsciousness, because the dark side is constantly trying to scan for the thoughts, strategies of various incarnating beings on this planet, and whatever they're trying to manifest here for changing the reality, to then trip up the reality, especially if it's resistance-free Earth, to help expand the thrivingness of humanity and get it out of debt slavery, and all these other problems that most people aren't comfortable talking about. I am. And yeah, there. Uh, in the muscle testing, you can learn all different types. I tend to like to train everything, and I've been able to train it for every finger. The thumbs, do it one-handed. Feet, you can also train it for your eyeball and your tongue. Essentially anywhere that moves, you can make a biofeedback device. And then I also recommend scientists to make a positive biofeedback device for themselves. I know scientists that already have. Some are being sold very high price because it's also a technology that's being suppressed. The military has it. They're not sharing it. So there you go. Then, oh yeah, I don't remember other stuff. I can go into muscle testing. I teach it in depth and how to master it fully, and then you can like go into meditations and then barely have to even eventually you'll train your intuition like training wheels or the bowling alley, the rails up so it doesn't go in the gutter, and you can just access everything in your mind and then just go into the silence and get really multidimensional with it. You can start muscle testing visualizations. It's really awesome, the technology that this body is, that everything else in our reality pretty much reflects. Like we have things that mainstream science in this technology doesn't talk about. They're not allowed. I remember being in school and going, plants, chloroplast takes sunlight and carbon dioxide and turns into oxygen and energy. We have that kind of thing with mitochondria. We convert sunlight into energy in our body. We have many different ways to generate energy. We have all kinds of cool stuff. Organs, they are supercomputers in themselves. Each neuron in your brain, supercomputer. You connect to a computer outside of your body as well. The field, like think of it like Wi-Fi. You have a field that extends, and you can connect to other versions of yourself. And you're like, oh, I have other versions. What does that mean? That means your consciousness has energy. Energy has consciousness in certain forms, and it can be increased in density by like how much the consciousness brings into itself for expression of some type. And you can see it as like an avatar, like incarnating technology to manifest here in the physical. And it's very good thing to be here. It's most people hate it. It sucks, of course. It's depressing school into itself. But it trains you to be the very powerful if you let it be like the wave instead of just crashing against the guy and overtaking him like a tsunami. It teaches him how to become the best surfer.
Okay. And one question that I would like you to talk about. So some people say, yeah, this is a big school, and other people say it's not a school, it's a prison planet. So what? It's both. Okay. Both. That's kind of what I was thinking, but could you elaborate on that?
It's we have light, dark, and neutral factions that also branch into many other expressions of middle and gray that also have been flipped in, like, oh, the light became the dark, all that kind of stuff. There's also false light, false dark, false neutral, and an invading force of evil that it easily more affects darkness than anything else because it doesn't really, it's like really hard to maintain yourself in positive darkness, and it's like the hardest difficulty. Anyway, that's kind of how that is, and we have immigrations and transmigrations of souls from star to star in zones and bubbles of reality that can go up and down in microcosmic scale, such as the solar system, and that having reality rules into itself and what it allows to interact with it, what it doesn't even allow to perceive the solar system, such as similar things with how we only see 7 orbs in our solar system when we look outside with our visible eye. But if we have the amplitude to make something like an operating system, like a telescope, to see more, or whatever, see other spectrums of energy that we weren't able to perceive, and then bring that into reality. Your body is able to scan all of that, honestly. So I use that. Then you remote viewing technology, you can view it from a non-local location. Like certain NASA scientists have taken certain psychics that they were half skeptic about, half like, oh, we're really interested, and then they're proved entirely like, oh, you can read a number on the satellite that we just asked you to do? Oh my God. And then cover it up like, oh, we don't talk about that. Let's project oh, we have this bounty for anyone that can prove they're a psychic out in mainstream public, but it's a giant trap, and almost everyone that goes to it gets targeted by the military. And there's also these reality rules when you start showing people psychic abilities and they're overly skeptical because they're emitting frequencies that interact with your bubble of reality and like bring down your effectiveness like down to a low degree, which is why some people that have developed telekinesis and are able to do it very strongly by themselves then try to take it to other people, it's not as easy. I've been able to do it both, but like it's something that like is constantly having blockages thrown at me in to train, and otherwise you got to keep doing it and then maintain that. And if you understand the body and able to scan for blockages, it's really it's more interesting system than just forcing a telepathy like you know. Mm-hmm. And it depends on the individual because they have different skill sets. They have less blocked and are more empowered, as well as lives that they've existed in where they've trained abilities that they have a blueprint for that is held in their light body DNA that are waiting for them to unlock, that they could bring out this lifetime much more powerful, but also that there could be a potential of that spirit being targeted by the dark dominating control system that has set up a saddle on the natural incarnate grid of Earth to limit the potential of what's going on here, because this is a big drama that's going on in the galaxy, and backwards, forwards in time, things are trying to prevent or delay, as well as the positive actions trying to make go faster, an awakening process that brings us into our awareness that we are a species within Asia. We've been held hostage in lots of different ways spiritually. There's reasons that aliens can't just show up here because of all the dead man switches that are entwined with everyone on the planet. That they're like, oh, if you do this, we do this. We infinite counter chess moves that just like bring to an amalgamation of things that manifest here on the graduation timeline, and there are all these other tangent timelines that allow those catastrophes to exist, but the graduation timeline is not wanting to have those bigger catastrophes unless local groups in their local bubble of reality manifest them with their own belief, which is what the fear porn is trying to do by the dark side, to get people to manifest their own destruction. Because, you know, what is it, the 100 monkey effect? If we, like, 80% of us believe something, we tend to bring that towards us in reality bubble perception, including disharmonic time, things that we've believed in the past that we've then changed. There's all kinds of stuff. Reality bubbles crashing together, and then them piecing together their belief system ladder from the wreckage of like, oh, well, this happened. Well, everyone's kind of waking up like that. Mm-hmm. And then dreams, incredible like things that you're doing in your dreams, you may not be even aware of it. There may be a separation from that awareness, but you're dreaming all the time. This is technically a dream. It's just a more intricate dream layer. There's many different layers of dimensionality of energy overlaid on top of each other. Like space between atoms is pretty infinite for space. So yeah, I don't know. I forget if I completely answered your question. I went off.
No, that's good. So one thing that you do acknowledge in this is the interference and the sophistication of interference, and so I mean that's kind of a.
Oh yeah, prison planet. That was what. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. It's just like,
no, it's okay. It's good. It's all good.
Get memories back. So. So it's a prison planet for negative beings that are being quarantined into this drama because they want to make it a last thing that they hold on to. Like, this is our last fortress kind of thing. Because of the amount of technology, amount of potential, amount of things we have in potential that the dark side is scared of when we wake up, because we're going to change the universe. Essentially, when we go out and create shit, when we leave this planet, okay, so the quarantine grid in itself isn't negative. It's to resolve the karma of multiple universes and uncreating the universe, and lots of it's the biggest dramas are being put into this solar system to resolve. Some of the biggest players, but also like the most powerful, some of the most light, balanced, but also some of the biggest assholes. So it's like one of the biggest games that are here, and nobody knows it because it's kind of more of a belief system war and a empowerment war. We're in a psionically emergent species, so they're trying to lessen that. Like, our technology is very low user friendly for psionic interaction. That could easily be changed in a second. We already made biofeedback interaction technology with frequency for your brain, but there are certain things that are done to the CPUs and the hard drives of computers, I believe, with a certain percentage of them, where depending on how targeted a spirit you are, because that would mean like you're a powerful being, you're holding up a lot, they really want your energy, whatever. To keep the system domination control going by stealing your energy, you can pull that rug out from under them. That's the biggest thing. But they'll put I found things in my laptop like etheric implants of certain different types of energetic overlay. Etheric implants can be made by anyone that's psionic. People accidentally make them all the time. Childs make them by projecting to the floor when they're angry. Like it's like a psychic booby trap for people when they step on it. There's different species. The military has stolen it because they're not really allowed to be made by negative beings. Most negative beings are stealing ability from some other being to make them. So if you find them, you can audit them in a lot of different ways. I can get rid of them. There are certain monitoring devices on, so like some of them, depending on how targeted you are, even if you remove them, if you don't do it in a way that like gets rid of the monitoring system, takes care of the root of the problem, the faction might come back and re-implant you when you're least expecting it. It'll be like split-second visitations that you don't. They have both light, dark, and neutral inner Earth groups and off-worlds, intersolar, extrasolar groups that are visiting here for this drama in support for the various souls that are sleeper cell agents of hope and change here. Most people are getting positive visitations, like majority of any visitation that they have, even if they have some negative ones they remember, so that they can connect to that soul force. And it's usually a war between the light and dark forces that have become aware of that individual, and they can then be empowered to learn how to prevent any negative ones in the future through prevention of incursions. There's certain abilities you can unlock in your body. I also teach that. It's a high clearance thing, so individually I'll go into it. So you can search throughout your body at different timestamps that you had like a temporal anomaly. You want to look for the evidence, like or the trauma, the trapped emotions, the things that were implanted. Oh, okay, before this point in my life, it happened this time, this all that. It keeps going back. Okay, then you can look at that timeline, see what happened, what factions, what beings. That's what I do with most people that are targeted. I do see abductions and all that stuff. So the things people got going on with them, they mostly don't have any idea. Most visitations, they got the technology so advanced, especially like the future secret space program, that is our human faction, will project back in time, look for the most powerful spirits for certain abilities they need manifested to be trained to certain soldiers, or missions that need to be completed. There's light, dark, and neutral SSP. We hear mostly about the negative ones because they're the most affecting of our lives. And then there'll be secret missions. So, yeah, I forget what my original. Oh yeah, so we're everyone on this planet has a war going on inside them and outside of them that they're affecting and influencing. Their higher self is already doing things without you needing to be aware of it. You're like an anchor for bringing more of your spirit into this body so you can be more powerful. Your higher self working with it, and that goes with the consciousness expansion of I know more and more kind of stuff, filings. And everyone is adding a chess move to this creation, so you can get very strategic with it. You can get, it's a multi-dimensional energy chess game. So getting infinite in the a la carte of belief systems, but realizing belief systems are a technology. They're not negative, positive, but they need to be tested constantly. To like sharpening a knife, or it's kind of like having a ladder of belief systems. Like some people have like a bunch of chairs stacked on top of each other, holding them up. Like I know some indoctrination or cult belief systems, or ancient. There's like esoteric religion, and there's exoteric religion, which is what the mainstream perception you get. Exoteric has the secret information, the nuggets of truth, and then you gotta like not throw out the baby with the bathwater, but you gotta like distinguish what is with discernment, because even science has a religion, scientism, which is go along with whatever mainstream tells you, just do it. There's not warring factions with science belief systems or anything like that. There totally is. So it's about empowerment, what works, and then you can change your belief system. You want to enter a space where you can go right from the other. You want not to be rigidly held onto something in attachment, but not be overly gullible to just bring into anything into your reality. And then that goes into muscle testing, because you can then test what your body resonates with fully, or perceives from the information your higher self. And even if you're getting hijacked at a high level, which the muscle testing can get hijacked, you can then make an operating system for clearing it, and asking, am I getting hijacked? And then be, yeah. And then you can use that method to make yourself stronger, more accurate, to scan for the blockages, that infiltration in your vagus nerve or wherever it is, because there's various backdoors in your body that open up through DNA connection, light body connection, beings in your degrees of separation, beings that entangle with your crown chakra, the dirty energy technology we have. You're connecting a network. That's everyone in your contact list to your crown chakra. So if you have haunted people, they're dumping energy on you, and they're stealing your energy, and it updates every day. So you can make an operating system to avoid that, or make a filter so it doesn't do that as dramatically, or you can just scan for the haunted people on your contact list and delete them, and it's less problem. Less headaches, less all kinds of stuff, as that manifests as an indicator on the dashboard that something's trying to penetrate your aura, something's trying to steal your energy. You can then ask if it's
and that's an ongoing process. It's not like you're going to deal with those kind of interferences and just be done with it, because the further you go, the more you encounter, the wider your net, the more issues that come up there in terms of interference and the sophistication of the interference, and maybe the time that it takes to properly identify and then remove the interference. Is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what
all
is the factions? coming with common filing systems in your body, like what's the origin point, where it's coming from, how is it getting into my reality, what's it doing, what's it targeting. You can then narrow it all down to that, and then get better and better at all these systems such as psychic tracking, which I teach, and diagnostic issues in your body such as physical ailments, negative programming, unbalanced systems, infiltration, energy stealing, things that are happening to your multidimensional self, which people get as bleedovers, which can be pain, can be migraines, can be a lot of things. Like most people have it because their energy is getting stolen to attack another version of themselves that's usually highly targeted, like maybe a big mover and shaker.
That's pretty common, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very common. And they'll feel that attack because it comes up on their dashboard, hey, you need to pay attention to this, you need to take care of this. This other version is in pain and suffering because of you. And then it kind of like amalgamates in that karma. Even if you don't take care of it, you're feeling the pain. That makes your higher self become aware of it and work on it over time. But you can make it go incredibly faster by taking the driver's seat of that vehicle, because being in this reality is like winning the lottery, because you're in a fortress that's a quarantine zone that keeps many beings out, but is also a trap for many beings that are coming here. That is hard to get in. You can't enter the solar system without being soul family or DNA relation to us. You can't even perceive it. We've got all this DNA of all these different races combining into one skin suit, and then adding all that technology together, you can reunite your entire multidimensional self and heal your entire being. Most places elsewhere, you'd get attacked heavily and it'd be hard. Not here. Well, you're gonna get attacked still here, but it's much easier. So it's much more easier. It's a constant test of reclaiming your sovereignty, the ins and outs of the reality. You're like by interacting with dirty energy underwear people, because most people are walking around, they have no idea about this stuff, they don't know about their technology, they didn't know what they inherited from their ancestors, ancestral lineage DNA, and they have energy emissions that are interacting with haunted people around them, that is then bleeding over to the other people, and that's interacting with your crown chakra and degrees of separation, every being you've interacted with your entire life, spiritual entourage, dream time guides, all that stuff. And we have to create filters and shields for that. Otherwise, it builds up, and we get depressed, we get anxiety, we get anger, we get influence, we get emotional mind control from something that wants to create a dramatic situation or change your timeline subtly through like, oh, I don't feel too good, so I miss work by 10 minutes or whatever. Lots of interesting strategies beings have been able to make. So everything that comes your way, you can scan into and then make a counter chess move for, and then get better and better at coping and surfing and dancing around this reality.
Right. I've been doing this channeling series with a fellow. His name's Carl Mollison, and we've done quite a few channeling series. And one of the things that came up, maybe not so much as part of the interviews, but some of the kind of offline conversations that Carl and I have had about, within the disclosure community, and the fact that a lot of those individuals are heavily targeted because they potentially could be disrupting a lot of this interference that's going on by exposing it. And one of the things that that we talked about, that we seem to be learning about, I mean, I'm still kind of on the fence on some of this, but was that the misdirection or the interference that's being perpetrated on some of these people isn't to create high drama, but just kind of keep people kind of cycling in kind of like a closed loop. They're not really going anywhere. It's just kind of like and nothing really evil or nefarious. It's just like it's a program that has been created so that people aren't spiraling up to a new level of awareness. They're just kind of like staying in same patterns of like discovery or revelation that just leads to a repeat of the same, same kind of modality, so that it's not really anything dramatic or evil, or where someone's going to get like severely hurt. It's like keeping a whole cadre of light workers from going anywhere, from doing anything effective. Does that resonate?
Absolutely. That everyone on this planet has similar concept going on in cyclical habit patterns that resonate in the DNA, either inherited by their ancestral lineage or their light body spirit in past lives and drama. I go into tracking with clients back those cyclical patterns that manifest in their life, positive, negative, neutral. It's very interesting to see, like, oh, that's why that manifests. Oh, cool. And go back to that, and then that initial trauma and its various points that it's manifested itself in various lives and versions of that person. It's very interesting how it all overlays and bleed over. Even if it's something that just seems randomly to happen in your reality. So, I mean, a lot of things aren't coincidence that we call coincidence, that are like seen constantly by reality programs.
Yeah, stuff actually is not random. It's not random. Exactly. It's there for a reason, kind of.
And the habit patterns of those choice points is what keeps things set in stone, because of the different consciousnesses that are interacting with energy in our environment for every, I'm making a blanket term for all different types of realities, and how they change it by observing that energy. So if you can change the habit pattern, you can change the future very easily. It's harder though depends on what it is. And
especially when it's within a group consciousness, right?
Yeah. And it can be shared, especially among different lineages, or depends on what it's being held on to as like a last-ditch effort. Some things will be less of a hard habit pattern to work on, and then there'll be that last thing that's like, oh, why doesn't this go away? And it's usually because something's influencing that to stay on that spirit through a timeline incursion to make that manifest as a habit that changes that being's entire potential based on that negative multidimensional apex predator going back, having the perception of timelines going backward and forwards in time, and creating chess moves that influence the future potential in various ways through this subtle change, this subtle change, this subtle change, and then getting it all going to what they're projecting and wanting to manifest, and that all fighting against each other in factions.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about was that you'll come up with some things that you cannot speak about publicly, but there are some things that would be considered like personal subjects that have to do with blocks, that if you did discuss them, that would be helpful for the wider audience.
Okay, sure, let's do that. Awesome. So, like, if I were to use you as an example, and whenever I connect to a person's field, I always do it through a filtering, auditing, managing process by the true, authentic, original source of all existence, creation, life. You have as the consciousness holding space for reality that is then fractalized in every expression of consciousness that exists, as the universe expressing itself as every individual, has that connection to source in your heart. It doesn't matter if you reject or accept it, you're going to get clearance levels of how you operate with it, and you can expand in that direct connection to source. So I do that with you, so I don't do any harm, because constantly beings are trying to, and I do see this with everyone, so it's like not just me. Beings will try to infiltrate things that I do and try to fuck up shit, and then I prevent that right at the go. So, okay, yeah. So then I'd scan you, so I'd go into like more bigger backdoors that we can then close in things that are putting blockages on your timeline. I'm already scanning a bunch of the different dramas from all the different listeners and viewers and all the different stuff. So it's all culminating, and then all the different preventions that your higher self has done, and beings that you beat up, all that kind of stuff. So then goes down to the bigger drum. So above your head, you would see it like an energy tree. You could also go into the tree of life, which I will be talking about more in how it overlays with the body, interacts with the earth, and then goes beyond. Okay. make filing systems for that, and backdoors and bleed overs and the different technology you have, and then above your head, your crown chakra interacting with your higher self, your spiritual entourage, your guides, guards, and sensuals, the beings you surround yourself with, protection, all that stuff, interacts with your crown chakra. All like higher, infinite information processed a lot in there, but each of these processing centers that interact with the endocrine system and the tendrils of the spinal cord that then project off in different ways, but that go into vortexes that can be their own technology and orchestras of energy that go throughout the body. I don't care what you call it, chakras, whatever. Anyway, so going up that, yeah, so the two big problems you got, I don't care what, again, the New Age movement calls this. This is an orb above your head that has to do with processors. It's a mystery school. It interacts with the filing system of every being you interact in your degrees of separation. So it will come up as a problem if you are interacting with dirty energy, underwear from different technology or other people in your environment. It will come up in that processing center, and that'll usually feel like a scratching or itching or weird sensations on your head, or even migraines if it's like deeply trying to penetrate your crown, something to steal your energy. Okay. Then you can track that back, and then like, okay, what aspect of that, and make a filing system. Is it my degrees of separation? It'd be like, well, 1 degree of separation being you ever met in your reality, walked across the street, heard your voice on the radio. It's past that. That's the second, spiritual entourage. Third, dreamtime guides usually, and then it goes out in bubbles of reality you're separate from, like, oh, that galaxy over there in that dimension that's separate from me somehow interacting with me. It will have a filing system to it. Then you can, so the biggest thing in that is your third, which has to do with the dreamtime haunting, and you can then track that back on your timeline. When was that a signature? Early age, not age 9, so that then goes back to a whole bunch of visitations. Age 9 I see as like during childhood and going into age 7, there's an innocence period spiritually where that being is protected strongly, and then that dwindles off, and it's the man's place is given to them, and then that ends at age 9, but like they're given the choice at age 7. Anyway, some children will get attacked even despite that, which is against the rules, which can then be like, oh, you're against the rules, help source, whatever. And that will usually go into how powerful the spirit of the child is. And they'll get dreamtime hauntings and things that will prevent them from going into certain abilities, all that kind of stuff. So age 9, you had a whole bunch of shit happen, a lot of stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about, but you can go into specifically, all amalgamating into one. The one that I'm talking about specifically, the dream time. How are your dreams, by the
way? They tend to be kind of mundane, and I don't remember them often. I don't know what to say. I guess beyond that, I would have to go into like a specific dream. But yeah, they don't seem to be very esoteric, or they seem to be kind of more involved with day-to-day type involvements. You know, every once in a while, peppered in there, I'll have something that's quite fantastic. I did have a dream not too long after I got involved in the YouTube channel. It was right around the same time, where I was with my wife and my mother, and this was like kind of like a New Earth signature dream for me, and I got some aspects of this verified later in terms of spirit guides and whatever, but it was kind of like the rebirth of Gaia, and there was a witness and the interaction going on between myself, my wife, and my mother in a very kind of bucolic, kind of country natural setting, and it was a high emotional state dream. It woke me up, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's going to look like when the new Earth gets here. And a lot of like what we were witnessing was a transformation of of some like artifacts within the natural setting, and then everything in our view coming alive and starting to communicate with each other and with us. And it was a really profound dream. That, and then when you say dream, that's probably the one that sticks out to me. That was more recent, and the rest of them are kind of like not very remarkable, at least not to me anyway.
I gotcha. So, going to the physics, you can then audit your dreaming body, its dream body autopilot programs in your parasympathetic, so that you can get what you want to do when you go to sleep. And then you can have like a ceremonial programming NLP, there's ritual magic, there's a lot of ways you can call it, to get that program set before you go to sleep. And then you can do it multiple times until it happens. And that's like usually how people do it. And then eventually you're like, after program, because like they'll usually indicate if it doesn't program that easily that something's fucking with it, so you gotta like get the fuck out. Like,
right.
Sorry if I'm using language.
It's okay.
Anyway, so a lot of things coming up for you in dreaming. Things trying to block you, things trying to expand you, a lot of upgrades coming to you in dreaming body, working with your higher self and other versions of you that are interacting and becoming aware of you, and also your future potentials with what you're doing here. So your dream, I can go into the dreaming body a little bit, and then I'll go into this. So it's mainly processed in your gut brain, and that gut health has tremendous amount to do with it. So clear out your gut, and that energetically extends in biophotonic emissions to your ends of your electromagnetic field and magnetized wormholes as a processor and shielding and fortressing effect, because there are beings that will incur upon dream time, and you want to kind of set up a thing so that you're protected and wherever you're going as well. And there's lots of abilities, lots of different factions, and especially if it's indication how blocked your dreaming is, even if you're in the process of really wanting it to be unblocked, can indicate how much they don't want you to be able to dream. So then that can like, oh, they really don't want me empowered. Well, I guess that means I got some presence waiting. So that orb above your head, then you have another processor above that you can then bring down or whatever. It's like extending and lowering an antenna when you go to sleep. There's different modes for it, or when you're going into particular energy environments where you want to compress yourself and then make it so that it's like a shield and you're just like kniving through the smog. Okay, so I'm tracking it back to a big thing that I'm gonna ask if I'm allowed to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna be vague in it, and then I'll go in more in depth with you later. But you have, a version of you that is a higher, like this is how it works in this. When you enter the solar system, you like, souls go through the stargate of the sun and come into the solar system majority-wise, if they're not going through back doors. Then that higher self, as a manager, expands more sparks and shards of itself into other incarnating experiences throughout the planets of the mystery schools of this solar system, in different reality bandwidths that don't need to be physical. I mean, to what we think, like those planets that just seem like they're just a dead planet, they'll have realms inside them that are full of life. They'll make their surface population less damageable because of the huge amounts of dramas they've been through in the past. Like, it's not worth holding at this time. Earth is different because she's very fucking strong. She's like a warrior, Xena princess, protector. She's been through a lot. Anyway, and she's been through destructions. Okay, so you got a version of yourself that is taking on a lot of drama that I'm gonna help do things with, and with your higher self, this version of you knows about you. It's known about you since birth. It's helping you with your missions as a secret protector, an army of help spiritually and physically kind of concept. Your soul family and a bunch of other people. You will likely run into people that interact with this. okay, I'll just say it. You have a version of yourself that is the main driver of a sun, a star, that is holding space for microcosmic life in a solar system that is then having like a balancing, dancing act with the rest of the universe in commerce. So not all stars act the same. Our star is a collective consciousness of beings that are in like a round table effect. It had to be because of the amazing beings that are here that are really powerful, that are holding up the reality. Most stars, though, will have like a main driver that is holding up the reality because they have a bigger investment. But they'll also have a collective consciousness that are helping them in a round table effect. You can then start a communication line with that star by figuring out where it is, or even it's in your heart, really. You don't even know where it is. You can just orientate and ask where it is and then find it. I'm not going to tell you where on air.
What?
I'm not going to say where it is on air. That's this
okay.
This thing, but I'll say it elsewhere. Then you can then scan how you're interacting in a protective layer of Dreamtime Protector for the various dream realities in that solar system. You can scan for the various spirits that are incarnated in the planets, the moons, or the asteroid belts. It's all going into technology and how that can interact with this body right now, because you can connect that solar system to this body and bring it all into alignment. It's kind of like getting the stars and the planets to align for your manifestation by aligning with and not being in non-competition with any other version of yourself, which the dark side is constantly trying to corrupt, mind control, and convert into a dark being, everyone on this planet, to combat themselves. So that's also what we're doing. So you're holding up a big mantle place with that version of yourself, and that is going through some invasions Dreamtime wise. So you can learn how to help and monitor that, interview the story of it, what's going on, narrow it down. Then you can make focused meditations of bringing the power of your energy that you accumulate in your attention and the technology you have here to help that version of you do whatever it is, because the technology in alignment with the planet and the solar system here, in alignment with that solar system, will be very powerful.
Okay. So,
and we're resolving pretty much all karma, so there's that.
So that story then, it's a personal subject, something having to do with me. How can that help other people with the blocks? Is that just for awareness sake, so that they know that they could have a similar situation that they're dealing with?
Yeah, so, especially if powerful being. A lot of powerful spirits that are ancient and old have many different stars of them, or interacting in collective consciousness, have planet versions of them. And those macrocosmic dramas, depending on how big they are, will also bleed into this life for resolution, because we are the antibody for evil. If you choose to be.
Okay.
There's a lot of layers to it. Leave that.
All right. So we're climbing up on an hour here, so I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything else that you want to relate to our viewers. Like what's an update from Sean? Like, what's been happening with you? Like, what do you see on the horizon for yourself, or like, I mean, that you can share, you know?
I got it.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna be expanding more in my career. I'm gonna try to bring more technology out to the world to share. I'm getting my YouTube channel up, so I'll set up basics for that to give to people as gifts, and then like that will expand more, and as more people use it, I'd like to see more people doing this stuff. And then we need a lot of healers here, so you know. And I don't really feel bad about giving that information. A lot of people like, why give pearls to swine? fine. I keep running into new information, so I keep expanding. I don't lose new in stuff, so I can always talk about more
Right.
stuff. Um,
Well, I mean, I think that's very, very helpful, very valuable for people to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with people making a living off of their passion. And unfortunately, we're still
Absolutely.
in the money system. That's going to go away. But you know, the money system's only going to go away when there's more healers, and there's only going to be more healers when there's more people doing stuff like what you're doing and training people. And it's a great way. I mean, if you're giving away freebies like that, that's going to help people find you and create a connection with you and your teaching style and what you have to offer. And then from there, you know, you can build onto something that's going to be of benefit to them and to you, because you know you still need a roof over your head, you probably need gas for your car, and all those crazy little things that we have to pay money for. So I, for one, don't have an issue with healers making a living from their work. So and
it needs to be.
pardon me.
People, yeah, it needs to be that, because a lot of people underestimate the healings, what they're doing spiritually, and they are trained not to see it as valuable. I get attacked for helping people. Like I have to literally beat up their well, it's not really beating them. I just make that as a term. I do complicated things to clear them that then start targeting me, and then I
Right.
have to shield myself from that.
Yes.
So it is valuable to me because it does take up my time. So I
Right.
once we get in the mindset that it is valuable, it will be good, and it will be expanding more and more and more.
It's interesting because my interview with you is also speaking to an interview I was going to do yesterday. It got canceled because of a power outage, but it is about a healer who there's some indication that he's very powerful, and he got powerfully attacked, and it was basically a personal car wreck that he went through as he burst forth on the scene with his healing capabilities, and then everything went terribly wrong. And he's basically almost in a situation where he has to start over from scratch. And our interview yesterday was going to be about that, about like a rebuilding process. And a warning to other healers is that, you know, if you're putting yourself out there, you also need to be aware of people who can help you, because sometimes it's not so easy to help yourself because you can't see the things that are being done to you. And so this is very timely. It's very helpful. I feel very positive and encouraged that we've done this interview at this time. This is the last one I'm doing before I go to Contact in the Desert, and this is a great lesson for a lot of people that may be drawn to your work or want to do something like what you're doing. Because you know, I think you as a young man, and with your intentions and what you're trying to do, is very encouraging to people to see that, to see, oh, you know, they could be inspired. Maybe I could do this too, you know, and it's around multiplying yourself, like multiplying your abilities and stuff, which is like, I agree. And Carl, this guy that I'm doing these interview series with, he's the same thing. He says we need more people doing this kind of stuff, and then we get to the 100th monkey thing, right? It goes viral, and then it's less work for everybody at that point.
Yeah. So it does. I agree with everything you just said. I'm trying to remember the things I had. So I go into, besides just healing people, I want to teach, make sure people realize there is a way to teach anyone on the planet. It doesn't matter how blocked you are, how to be psionic or psychic, how they'll say it. I use psionic because it's a military term. And you can do that. You can expand yourself. You become more powerful. We're in a quarantine here. It's affecting us on all levels. We're kept from being more powerful in this quarantine. So that's a positive and negative thing. The positive thing, it understands the timelines and how you would, like, oh, I manifested this ability to shoot fire from my hands. Oh, this accidentally gets stolen by some being that's hidden, and then use it to harm other beings throughout the galaxy, and then brings that back to me to suppress me. Oh, well, I gotta learn how to hold that mental place up. So it's like also a quarantine for abilities. So you have an internal mystery school in yourself that you can go through, the to-do list of your shadow work, of your shadow body, of your operating system, to get rid of all things that are preventing you from manifesting more, becoming more powerful, in alignment with Earth, in alignment with Source, Otherwise, you lose abilities, and you get karma, and you get beat up by the reality because it's telling you you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, or you're getting hijacked and something's doing that against your free will. So you got to take it back. Take back your sovereign free will.
Okay. All right. That's a good place to end, I think. Okay, Sean. Thanks so much for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your time with me today. All right. And thanks everybody for watching. And check the links down below. Contact Sean and have a great week. Okay. Bye.